On January 15, 2009, Flight 1549, carrying 155 people, took off smoothly from New York's LaGuardia Airport, heading to Charlotte. Captain Sully, with 42 years of flying experience, was calm, decisive, and meticulous. The co-pilot was also experienced and greatly admired Captain Sully. However, neither of them expected that just 2 minutes after takeoff, they would face one of the most terrifying situations in aviation history. The flight attendants thought it was turbulence, but it was a bird strike. They quickly reassured passengers, reminding them to fasten their seatbelts. But Captain Sully noticed both engines were rapidly losing power and then failed. He tried to restart the engines based on his experience, but there was no response. He quickly activated the auxiliary power unit and took over control from the co-pilot, instructing him to pull out the quick reference checklist and find the dual engine failure emergency procedure, while also declaring an emergency to the tower.
This is Cactus 1549. Hit birds. We've lost thrust on both engines. We are turning back towards the water.
After receiving the emergency call, air traffic control immediately coordinated and cleared the runway for Flight 1549's emergency landing. Captain Sully followed the instructions to turn left, while the co-pilot attempted the dual engine failure emergency procedures from the checklist. But all efforts to restore power failed. Realizing that with their current speed and altitude, a safe return was impossible, and with densely populated New York City below, any wrong decision could lead to a greater disaster. Relying on his 42 years of experience, he aimed for the wide Hudson River and made an unimaginable decision to ditch there, immediately reporting this to the tower. The air traffic controllers were shocked and quickly contacted Teterboro Airport for an emergency landing. But the response was still that a return was impossible. The plane then disappeared from radar, and all the air traffic controllers were on edge because the success rate of a water landing is nearly zero. They could only silently pray. At this time, the plane's altitude was less than 50 meters.
This is the captain. Brace for impact.
Hearing the captain's announcement, all passengers were terrified but followed the flight attendant's instructions to brace.
Brace, brace, brace! Heads down! Stay down!
Some sent farewell messages to their families, while others expressed long-held regrets. Captain Sully remained calm, tightly gripping the controls and focusing ahead. He knew that if the nose or wings hit the water first, the plane would break apart instantly. He had to ensure the plane entered the water at the right height and angle for a successful ditching. Then the plane's warning system announced an imminent impact. With a loud crash, the 68-ton giant skidded across the river surface and came to a steady stop without breaking apart. From the bird strike to the successful ditching, it took only 208 seconds. Every decision and action during this time showcased the captain's rich experience and piloting skills. But before anyone could celebrate, water quickly began to flood in. Captain Sully immediately got up, instructing everyone to put on life vests and evacuate. The flight attendants opened the emergency exits, and some passengers, under their guidance, opened the emergency doors to escape. With the crew's direction and passengers' cooperation, everyone orderly evacuated the cabin. However, it was winter in New York, and the freezing temperatures posed a new challenge. Fortunately, nearby ferries spotted them and rushed over, sending out emergency rescue requests. Rescue helicopters also quickly responded. At this time, both wings and the inflatable slides were crowded with passengers, and the water inside the cabin was waist-deep. Captain Sully, disregarding his own safety, carefully checked every corner to ensure no one was left behind before returning to the cockpit to retrieve the flight log and leave the cabin. Minutes later, ferries arrived at the scene to begin rescue operations. Each person seemed like an angel, radiating the light of humanity. More rescue forces joined in, and with everyone's efforts, all passengers were rescued in less than 10 minutes. Captain Sully immediately called his wife to assure her of his safety, then quickly found staff to check the passenger list and rescued individuals. As a captain, the safety of every passenger was his responsibility and mission. The rescued passengers also called their families.
Sherry, I cannot believe I'm talking to you.
Sully was then taken to the hospital for a routine checkup. Despite just experiencing a life-and-death situation, he showed no abnormalities except for a doubled pulse rate. The Union president then informed him that all 150 passengers and 5 crew members, totaling 155 people, survived. Captain Sully was speechless with emotion. Although he didn't safely deliver everyone to their destination, in the face of an emergency, he used his rich experience to save 155 lives and countless families. With continuous media coverage, Captain Sully became a hero in people's hearts, praised and honored, invited to famous talk shows, hugged by hotel managers, and kissed by makeup artists. But none of this made him lose his humility. In an interview, he said, "I don't consider myself a hero. Like everyone else, I just did my job." However, what he didn't expect was that the National Transportation Safety Board considered it a crash, not a safe landing, because their engineers calculated that the left engine was still running at low speed, contrary to their report of dual engine failure, and the plane had enough power to return safely. Despite the runway being cleared by the tower, Captain Sully insisted on ditching in the Hudson, disregarding the safety of all passengers. Although there were no casualties, it caused significant losses to the airline. The two captains argued that in the emergency of dual engine failure, even with the auxiliary power unit, the plane could only glide. They attempted multiple engine restarts without success. They had little time to consider because below was densely populated New York, and without timely response and decision-making, more severe consequences could occur. So, based on his 40-plus years of flying experience, he judged that the altitude and speed were insufficient for a safe return. The only choice was to ditch in the calm, wide Hudson River, which could be easily verified by checking the left engine. The safety committee said the left engine was lost during the emergency landing. Although it hasn't been recovered yet, they simulated the flight parameters on a computer. The results showed that the plane could have returned safely to both LaGuardia and Teterboro airports. This left Sully in disbelief. They planned to conduct a live simulation at the hearing. If the results match the computer simulation, Captain Sully will not only lose his badge and face public scorn, but also face severe consequences. The incident polarized Sully's reputation, with the media turning him from a hero to a villain, questioning his actions. Sully was thrust into the spotlight, overwhelmed by anxiety, unable to return home, and frequently haunted by nightmares. Sully was often awakened by nightmares of the crash, even doubting his initial judgment and decisions. Finally, amidst panic and anxiety, the hearing arrived. Unfortunately, pilots simulated the emergency with the same parameters and managed to return to both LaGuardia and Teterboro airports. Although these results were unfavorable for Captain Sully, he remained calm. He pointed out that the simulations didn't account for human factors, like not following checklists or activating auxiliary power. The pilots had pre-planned their return after a bird strike, while Sully had to think, analyze, and decide, which takes time. If human factors are considered, they should be included. Sully then asked how many times the simulation was run, and her answer caused an uproar. In reality, there wouldn't be 17 chances. Even one mistake could be fatal. Sully wasn't surprised by her answer, and the committee was left speechless by his calm analysis. They decided to add 35 seconds for human reaction time and rerun the simulation. As expected, with the added time, both simulations failed. Someone needed to see more simulations? The room fell silent. Everyone put on headphones to replay Flight 1549's bird strike.
Birds. We had both of them rolling back. We should start. I'm starting behaving. My aircraft.
Your aircraft.
Get at the QRH.
Priority left.
Loss of thrust on both engines. This is Cactus 1549. Hit birds. We've lost thrust on both engines. We are turning back towards the water.
Turn left heading 220.
Fuel remaining, engine mode, selector ignition. Ignition?
Ignition.
Airspeed, optimum relay 300 knots. We don't have that.
No, we don't.
TC notified squawk 7700.
Cactus 1549 is going to be left traffic, runway 31.
I don't think we can make any runway. What about over to our right? Anything in New Jersey, maybe Teterboro? This is the captain. Brace for impact.
Everyone listened to the recording, witnessing the thrilling and heroic emergency landing, completely impressed by Captain Sully's decisive calmness. Meanwhile, the safety committee received news that the left engine was recovered and found completely destroyed, confirming that Sully's emergency landing on the Hudson River was the right choice. The committee highly praised Sully, comparing him to an indispensable variable in an equation. However, Sully believed the successful Hudson River landing wasn't just his achievement. It was the result of the combined efforts of 150 passengers, crew, rescue teams, and air traffic control. This story is based on the true event of U.S. Airways flight.